He'll be here in just a sec.
Okay. I haven't seen him in a while.
Where do you know him from?
I knew him at first when I lived in Orlando.
Oh, nice.
So I met him through there, and then I took the functional sports medicine course like 2 years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing, amazing. See where. See some more people are popping on. So where do you live now?
I live in Montecito.
In Montecito? Nice. Nice.
Hello.
How's it going?
Look at Chad.
How you been?
I'm good, bro.
Nice.
Ash, it's saying here, Arasupa is currently host. Reclaiming your host may disrupt.
What happened?
It's saying here, Arasupaya is currently host.
Yeah.
Reclaiming host may disrupt breakout rooms, post, screen share. So, what do I do?
What
I'm not going to reclaim
in?
it. I'm just going to turn it off. Okay. Look, Mike Howry's on here.
I know this is exciting. I see some people coming on.
It's saying I need to request to share.
There we go. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Okay, good. Good. I'm going to turn my TV off. All right, how we doing?
Good, I think for a few more people are coming on, which is nice.
A lot of people will watch the recording.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn this phone off. Chad, where you at?
I'm in Montecito now.
Okay. Where's that?
Santa Barbara, California area.
Oh, so nice. What
Yeah.
are you doing over there?
I moved here last January.
For good?
Yeah. I mean, I travel still a bit, but yeah, I'm pretty
You were
good.
doing stuff in like the Bahamas, weren't you?
I was there for a bit. I was visiting Hawaii for a bit.
Amazing.
Traveling with some people.
Yeah, that's what he used to do. He was like Chad was with Mitch. They were like cohort 2.
Yeah,
They are overseas.
Chad was just saying that he did the master class before.
Yeah, Mike has done it before, so
I love that.
which is good. So if you have a bunch of old timers, then I'm gonna make them work.
How was that IM8 thing you were in Wimbledon for?
Oh, dude, it was so good. It was so good. It's actually a really good product. I tried to rip it apart and I couldn't. Yeah, it's interesting. You can tell so much. Like normally when someone has a supplement company and I got to go meet them and they want to have a Zoom call or whatever, right? Like there's always, the founder and then, the formulator, the science person and all this kind of stuff. This one, when I met him, it was just him, the founder, on his own. And he knew every single ingredient. Like it was very impressive.
That's cool.
You know?
Yeah, one of the guys that was doing the marketing for that
Huh?
event. One of the guys that was doing the marketing for that event contacted me when he was there and said, "Hey, you should take a look at this."
Oh, who was the marketing person?
His name's Jordan.
Jordan, I don't know.
He was doing a lot of the pictures and videos and stuff for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's actually a very good product. It's actually surprisingly it tastes really good though. That was the part that was like so surprising to me. What time are we at? 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we're at 7.
Okay, I'm gonna give it 2 minutes. Mitch!
Ara.
Ash, do you know Mitch?
No, I don't know. I don't
Oh,
think
you should
so.
know Mitch. Mitch used to be in Nona forever.
Oh,
Nice to meet
really?
you. Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Back in the day, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Aw.
When did you leave, huh?
Leave Nona?
Yeah.
2018 when we moved down south. But I was still coming up until COVID.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, then you're in Miami, but now he's all the way up in
Wisconsin. I might as well
Wow.
be in Florida. It's been 90 the last few days.
Shut up. It's not
Yeah.
90 in
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Seriously.
It's never been 90 in Wisconsin.
Well, hey, dude. You want to come say hi? Come here, man. Yeah, Daddy's on work. Come here. Come say hi. Cuz.
Hi.
Oh, look at this guy.
Wait, I can't see your video.
Yeah, turn on your video.
I thought I had my video on. Where's my video?
He probably could operate it better than you, Mitch.
He probably can. What, bud?
All right, let me see. Who else is here?
What's this? Dad, what's this, Daddy?
That's a pin.
Why?
Cuz. There we go. Hey, Jakey, can you say hi?
Still can't see him.
No.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Eating, Dad.
Okay, 7:02. We're gonna start. Yeah, Mitch, we're gonna start.
Okay, we gotta go, buddy.
Why?
Cuz. Go get mama.
Why?
Cuz.
If you all can, show up on the camera so I can see you. Turn the camera on briefly for now. If you can. If you can't, it's okay.
Go. Dad, chocolate.
Does this allow you guys to turn on y'all's camera?
No, there's not an option.
No,
It's
it-
not
Yeah, there's no
I don't
option.
have the
Yeah.
I don't have the option for the camera to.
That's so
Yeah.
stupid.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
you can have that.
All right. So let me see. I'm gonna Kay Shan, where are you from?
Hi, I'm from Hong Kong.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
I'm currently in the States though, so
Okay.
time-wise, it's not that crazy.
Okay. What do you do?
Right now, I just graduated with a bachelor's degree in exercise science.
Very nice. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Alejandro. No. Yeah,
Alejandra.
Alejandra
Yeah.
Ortiz Ibarra.
Correct. I am from Mexico. Living in California for the last 8 years.
Very nice. So what do you do?
I'm a wellness and mental performance coach.
Nice. Okay.
Due to my history, I specialize in women, so I've been coaching some LPGA, LET, Epson, and now WAPT players.
Wow. Very good.
Yeah, and
Very
I'm
good.
really, really interested in what you are going to teach us.
Yes. Yes. I look forward to teaching you. Who's next? Alex Herslin.
Hey guys, PT by trade, strength coach, director of rehab and performance for the LPGA. So kind of live in the golf world a lot.
Where are you based, bro?
South Florida, West Palm.
Small world. Okay. I'm there tomorrow, actually. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Ashley Olivares.
Hello, I'm a senior right now doing my kinesiology degree
Very nice. Where?
at Penn State.
Okay. Yuan Chu.
Hi, I'm from Lafayette, Louisiana. I've been a general surgeon, a bariatric surgeon for 20 years and pivoting over to functional medicine. And
Oh, great. Okay. Glenn Henry.
Hello, a PT from Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Working with?
sports athletes.
Okay. Nice. Mitch, you need to turn your mic off.
I know. Mitch Sadowski, excuse me, hanging out with our now 3-year-old. I'm in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I run a performance program inside a PT clinic. No, bud. All right, I'm turning mic off.
Okay. All right. Trisha Good.
Hi, yeah, I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and I have a practice on the west coast of Florida. And I have training with sports medicine acupuncture. Did an internship when I was in Boulder, Colorado, Denver, Colorado. So
who did you do that with, Dr. Ma?
No, I did with Whitfield Reeves.
Whitfield is, got you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I
All
did
right,
with
very
Whitfield Reeves, and then and I'm an athlete myself, so I just want to show up and see what this is all about. And,
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Nate Jones. Going once. If you don't answer, that means you can't speak, so I get it. Yuhan Yang.
Oh, hi. This is Yuhong Yan, and then I'm a college student from Boston. I'm an athlete. I'm just interested in like what you guys going to talk about. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a student. Yeah.
What sports are you in?
I run track.
Track, very nice. What distance?
I do sprints. I do 110 hurdles, and also I do high jump.
110 hurdles and high jump?
Yeah.
Rare combination. Wow. What's your 110 speed?
110 speed, and right now it's 16:02. That's my PR right now.
Wow,
it's not that fast though.
Yeah, it's pretty good though. Okay. Ryan Hilt.
Hey guys, I joined a little late. I didn't catch your question.
Just introduce yourself. Tell me where you are and what you do.
Golf instructor down in Texas.
Oh, okay. Easy. Zach Koda. Okay. All right, let's get going. Ash, I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
We can see it.
Yep.
Okay. All right, everyone, welcome. This is our webinar. Probably just I'm trying to keep it an hour, but if we go longer, then we go longer, okay? My name is Dr. Ara Supaya. For those of you who don't know me, I was born in Malaysia, went to medical school in the UK, I've been an athlete my whole life. I am a better doctor than I'm an athlete, which is probably, a lot of us here are athletes, right? We relate with athletes. We want to compete. We want to perform. If we could, we probably want to do it for full-time work, but for whatever reason, we can't. But if you're like me, you're always looking to give an athlete an edge. You have this experience where you say, gosh, if I was doing this for a living, how would I do it better? What would I do? Right? And that's where all of this for me started from. Okay. And I now have the privilege of working with many world number ones in golf, tennis, men and women, Olympic athletes, 5 Olympians, Olympic gold medalists. And currently, I still work in the ER, just to give back, really. And most of my work now is done with individual athletes in baseball, golf, tennis, women's soccer, track and field. And I'm also the chief medical officer at Live Golf. And before anyone hates me, I didn't go to Live for any other reason other than the fact that it was an opportunity to set a medical service up that I couldn't turn down. Okay, I got to do the anti-doping, set up the recovery chambers, hire the physios, things I would never get to do otherwise. So it's been a great experience. But I wasn't always there, right? This is the original ticket. I actually have it next to me, of a day I made a conscious decision. I was a golf nut, golf addict, completely hooked on this. Okay, and I wanted to go watch Tiger play at the St. Andrews in 2000. And my coach had said to me, if you want to watch Tiger, you need to get there super early. So I drive from Liverpool, like, I can't even remember. It's a long drive. I get there at 5, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. So I get to the gates, the roped off areas, and it's 6 a.m. and they wouldn't let me in. And I was like, I tried, said everything, like I've driven all the way, blah, blah, blah. And the lady was like, I'm sorry, you have a general admissions ticket and you can't go in. But then I saw people who would just flash their badges and get through. So after a little while, I said to her, like, how are they going in? And she goes, they have credentials. And I had no idea what credentials were. Okay. But I decided that's what I needed to get. Whatever that was, that's what I needed to get. And so at that time, I was already training in sports medicine. And fast forward, this is 2 years later. I was a doctor on the European Ryder Cup team. Okay. And I only show this not to impress you, but to impress upon you. The reason this happened was because I was able to identify problems that athletes had that other people weren't noticing. Yes, I have a medical background, but the medical training didn't answer the questions. The training that I'm about to show you and put together is what did. Okay. So this is my promise to you. I want to make sure this next hour you get a ton of really good value. And this is my absolute promise. Okay. Can you all see this FedEx sign? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you see the arrow in the FedEx sign? Everyone see the arrow or no?
Yes.
How many don't see the arrow?
Yes, I do.
That's the arrow right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of this is to show you that the arrow was always there. And once you've seen the arrow, you can't unsee it. Okay? So that's what this course and this class is going to be about. Okay? At the basis of everything, you got to understand that human beings, athletes, okay, are biological systems. So the difference between the athlete there with, an amputee, bilateral amputee, and the watch is extremely precise. It doesn't vary. Okay? It's mechanistic. And if one part of the watch does not work inside, the whole watch stops. Humans are biological systems, meaning you can cut the legs and they can still compete. They can still get things done. They are able to adapt. You can take one part off. You can take 7/8 of your liver out and you can function. I can take one kidney out, you can still function. Okay? Biological systems are highly adaptable. There's a lot of redundancies. Okay? And they can compensate. This watch, this may be a $500,000 watch. It cannot compensate for a broken part. Okay? Now, most of the time, people think we go from health to disease. All right? So someone's healthy, next thing they drop down with a heart attack. Someone's healthy, next day they have, subacromial bursitis. Someone's healthy, next day they have sciatica and a pinched nerve. That's very, very rarely the case. In 30 years of doing this, unless you fall down and have trauma, been bitten by a mosquito or something like that, this doesn't happen. What happens is we go through a stage of dysfunction. Okay, so classic example that most people know is you don't go from health to diabetes. You go from health to pre-diabetes and then diabetes. Okay, and the reason I want to emphasize this is when you work with athletes, you might see them in the disease state, right? But prior to the disease, they were in a dysfunctional state. Now, the dysfunction could have been obvious or it could have been extremely silent. Okay, and what's key is if you notice the arrows, they are going both ways. So diabetes can go back to pre-diabetes and completely reversed. Even blocked arteries now, you can reverse them completely. So if someone comes in with, diagnosed here with tenosynovitis of the thumb. Well, there was a dysfunction here that wasn't addressed. The dysfunction could have been in the elbow and then presented with thumb disease. Okay? So as a rule, biological systems go through this stage. And my work has been to identify this. Because if I can get this early on, before it's obvious, and that's key. Okay? I want to see around corners. If people come here and I know in 2 months or 3 months, this person's going to have this disease and I can see it coming here, then I can intervene and push this back towards health. Everyone get that or no?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Now, at the driver of dysfunction are things called triggers, and I'll come to this in a minute, okay? What I'm going to show you is the path to which almost all disease states happen, okay? That's a trigger. The trigger takes you away from your baseline, okay? And that initiates a response called allostasis. If the trigger is removed, you go back to baseline, end of story. Okay, so this trigger could be allergies, could be a variety of things you're going to see in a minute, okay? But the response is exactly the same regardless of the trigger. If the trigger persists, this allostasis, which is a normal response, becomes an abnormal response. It becomes allostatic load, okay? And then that leads to something called primary metabolic imbalance. This is the dysfunction stage, okay? And then depending on your genetics, depending on your environment, you end up with a further deterioration of the metabolic imbalances, and then you end up in disease, okay? This pathway is not taught in medical school. I don't know why this is not taught, but every disease state starts with a trigger. Okay, now this trigger to this disease, if you've been hit by a car or you have appendicitis, could be this fast. But if you have degenerate, if you have a degenerate back, if you have a shoulder issue, okay, if you have arthritis, this trigger could be, this whole process could take forever before you actually end up with disease state. Okay? My point is, along this way, you can identify all of this. Okay? Now, I'm going to get you asked to do some work, okay? I'm going to show you a case history. This is a real case history. It's a professional female tennis player. If I mention the name, you know tennis, you probably know her, okay? And I'm going to put this case up. I'm going to read it with you real fast. I didn't know how else to do this, so I'm going to read it with you. And here's what I want you to do. Get a pen and paper. And throughout this time, I want you to ask this question, okay? Why this athlete? Why is this athlete having this issue, this injury, and why now? Okay? So in my practice, if you can't answer these three questions, you do not understand the case. It means you're treating them like a watch, like a mechanism, okay? Shoulder sprain, tendonitis, rehab, strengthen, not better, inject steroids, not better, PRP, not better, surgery. That's somebody who doesn't ask these three questions. If you want to be different and you want the athlete, if you want to go from standing outside the lines to working with world-class athletes, answer these three questions. It takes time and you got to really think about it, okay? All right. Ash, I don't like it that I can't see them. So everyone, can you unmute yourself and just tell me so far, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Let's read this case together, okay? DC is a 27-year-old right-handed female tennis player. Currently 68th in the world. Very, very good, okay? She has a two-handed backhand and plays a very physical and aggressive game. Her main complaint is profound fatigue, difficulty concentrating and sleeping, and extreme changes in body shape and composition during her menstrual cycles. Why this athlete? Why these symptoms? Why now? Start thinking along those lines. DC was born in Florida to healthy parents who have Irish and German ancestry. She is the only child born through C-section. Her mother did not have any complications during pregnancy, nor did DC have any complications during childbirth or during the first 2 years of her life. Very important. Her mother told her that she was a colicky child, but otherwise healthy and did not suffer from recurrent ear or throat infections. Important again, because that means a ton of antibiotics very early on. DC started playing tennis at the age of 5. The game was introduced to her by her father. By the time she was 7, DC was competing in regional and national tournaments. By the age of 12, DC was the 4th best junior in the US for her age group and was competing weekly. She mainly ate fast food on the road. She lived on nuggets and fries. DC remembers that she loved playing tennis, but also remembers her father being very difficult on her and pushing her hard. She vividly recalls an event where she had to walk 4 miles home after she lost unexpectedly. She was 11 years old when this happened. She declined to elaborate, but states she doesn't rely much on her parents, whom she rarely sees. DC reached puberty at the age of 14. Her cycles were regular. She describes them as being mild for about 3 days. Her only premenstrual symptoms was headache. DC played in college and won NCAA tournament twice before turning pro at age 21. She has been on the professional tennis circuit since then, competing regularly on the world circuit. Now that was 21, she's 27 right now. 2 years before her current symptoms, okay, which was what? Profound fatigue, difficulty concentrating and sleeping, and body shape and composition changes. 2 years before her current symptoms, DC suffered her first major injury, partial tear of her right rectus abdominis, which required her to rest completely for 8 weeks. This was the longest break in her career, and the diagnosis was made by a WTA physical therapist. There was no imaging. During that time, and on her own accord, she decided to supplement with branch-chain amino acids, plant protein, curcumin, creatine, and omega-3s to reduce inflammation, recover faster, and avoid muscle loss. She also decided to change to a plant-based diet with her sources of protein coming from supplemental protein, tofu, vegan meat, and occasional eggs. She also stopped consuming cow's milk because she felt it was causing her to be bloated, and many of the other girls reported feeling better when they avoided milk. Instead, she consumes soy milk. DC resumed training and competing as normal 8 weeks after the injury, which fully healed. At her first event back in UK in August, she developed severe allergies for the first time, which required daily doses of antihistamines. Her symptoms included cough, runny nose, watery eyes. She had never previously suffered with childhood asthma or allergies, so this was extremely unusual for her. The allergies lasted for about 2 months. During this time, she also noticed her weight fluctuating and she felt more bloated than normal just before her cycles. I looked like I was pregnant. About a year ago, DC started dating her Australian trainer, her first serious relationship in 7 years. They had been working together for about 6 months prior to that. Once they started dating, DC and her partner felt it was best she trained with a new trainer who modified her training from strength and power-based training to one that had a huge emphasis on endurance. DC decided that this was good for her as she felt that endurance training would help her maintain her physique as well as make her mentally tougher. She remained on a vegan diet throughout this time. About 8 months ago, DC suffered a second injury, this time involving her right lower back. The pain came on gradually, progressively worsened, and was intermittent. It remained localized to the right lower back with no radiation, but it limited her ability to serve hard. There was no obvious precipitating event to this injury. However, DC and her trainer decided to reduce her off-court workload. DC continued to compete while taking 600 milligrams of ibuprofen 2 to 3 times hours before matches and nightly before bed. The ibuprofen significantly improved her symptoms. A month later, she got an MRI which showed a healthy spine, normal discs, and no evidence of nerve root impingement. It was then deemed that her pain was muscular in nature, and her trainer decided to modify her training regimen to avoid exacerbating symptoms. DC remained competitive throughout this period. 6 months ago, DC and her boyfriend had a really ugly breakup. The police were involved, and there were claims of domestic violence, which led to a court order to keep him away. DC also revoked his credentials, so he could no longer be at tournaments. DC had about 2 weeks off during this entire episode before resuming training and competing. Her lower back pain had persisted with good and bad days. About 3 months ago, DC started noticing that her back pain was considerably worse during the premenstrual phase. Prescription anti-inflammatories would help control these episodes and allowed her to compete. However, she dropped out of the top 50 in the world ranking, which meant significant loss of revenue and seeding status at tournaments. About 3 months ago, she noticed that she was progressively fatigued and could not recover from her matches. She also noticed that her sleep was disturbed. She would go to bed tired and often wake up earlier than what was usual for her, still tired. She started napping during the day to try to get more sleep, which was extremely unusual for her. She continued to hurt. Her back continued to hurt. DC drinks alcohol very rarely and does not smoke or use recreational drugs. Chocolate hidden in croissants is her biggest vice, which she has given up. It's my vice too. She lives alone in an apartment and has very little social engagement when at home, but has tons of friends on tour, quote unquote. She uses makeup daily and sunblock whenever she practices. Currently, DC is actively competing and is suffering from significant fatigue and intermittent back pain. However, she has changed her training regimen back to more power and strength and started eating meat again at the advice of a new strength coach. She reached out to me for help with energy and supplements. She's currently on a multivitamin and noon electrolytes. Okay, that was a lot. Okay. First of all, just unmute yourselves. First of all, if you had a player come up to you and say they were fatigued and difficulty concentrating and sleeping, how many of you would have taken a history like this?
Me.
I would.
Me. I would.
Okay.
I would too.
Okay.
Yes.
How much of this history is going to help you answer why this athlete, why this injury, and why now?
All of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay. Now, in this history, okay, there are tons of triggers. Okay.
Yes.
And these triggers lead to an allostatic response, like we said, which then leads to an allostatic load, which then leads to a primary metabolic imbalance, secondary metabolic imbalance, and then the diagnosis. Okay. She is currently in this stage here because the symptoms are vague. Okay. So we have gone from here all the way up here. And if we do nothing, she is going to end up with a diagnosis. That's not going to be good. Okay. And I'll tell you her diagnosis in the end, but I just want to show that to you. Okay. And all of this is governed by her genetics, her epigenetics, and her environment. And that's why when you answer the question, why this person, that's where these three things come into it. Okay? These are the allostatic triggers. So when we talk about triggers, they fall into these 6 categories. Okay? After 30 years of doing this, I put them in these 6 categories. And every time I teach a class, I ask people, I say, if you find something else, just tell me where to put this. And if I've missed anything, add to this. And, this list hasn't grown significantly, but every now and again, a group will say, oh, you know what? Like that's this one. Okay. So mechanical, all of these things will cause you to have a driver of the inflammatory response and increase the allostatic load. Okay. So nutrition, toxins, psychological, I'll come to this in a minute. Environmental. Look, thermal. There's a lot of people now using cold plunge, saunas, and they don't realize like that is a trigger. Excessive use of that is a trigger. Okay? Travel is a trigger. New infections. Oh, I should add to this, vaccines. Okay? I usually put it here. Now, psychological, of all this, these other 6, okay, they tend to be short-lived. Even if, like, if you travel, you'll get 2-3 days, you'll recover. Okay? If you use the medication, you stop the medication, it's going to get better. If you correct your diet, it'll get better. And it's often short-lived. Psychological load is the most significant load because it's 24/7, even when you're asleep. Everyone get that?
Yes.
Yes.
Psychological load is not to be like, you have to ask. They won't tell you this, but you have to ask, you have to observe, and you got to see, do they have for this? And now in this, I've put down lack of sleep. See, I didn't put that with travel. I put lack of sleep as a psychological load. Okay? So if we go back to this case, okay, before we do that, I just want to show you, let's do this. Okay, now, the triggers, they have this response here, okay? The triggers, no matter what, hang on, you see this? No matter what the trigger is, it's going to go down this path. This has been years and years of very, very smart people doing this work, and that's what they've showed. When you have the trigger, you initiate this response, okay? What I want to show you is, so all the triggers will create the same response. But some triggers are more potent than the other. So for instance, in some person, allergies may drive that trigger. So allergies here may drive this way faster. For another person, it could be medication. For another person, it could be loneliness, right? So different triggers have different weights. So when you take a history, even though you ask the question, one of those things you want to identify is what's the weight I'm going to give to this trigger? Okay, because being human means you're going to have triggers. Then I also want to identify, I want to point out that these triggers are cumulative, meaning, you just had surgery, had a scar here, then you put on a supplement, you had a little bit of alcohol, you're anxious about competing, you jump on a plane, and then your allergies. Now that person is on fire. There's a ton of triggers. Does everybody get that? Yes?
Yes.
Right. All right. Now, based on this, let's go back and look at that history, okay? These are all her mechanical triggers. Okay? Right-handed. Already, like on a right-handed female, going to be serving on that way, there's going to be some asymmetry. Two-hander backhand, females, they'll have an open stance, so the left hip is more likely to be taking a beating than the right. Okay? Plays a very physical, aggressive game. Again, mechanical load. Playing tennis since age of 5, competing since age of 12. Partial tear of right rectus. See this? I don't want to go through this every single one, but like there's a lot of mechanical triggers already in this person. Okay? And then when her body weight fluctuates, that adds to the mechanical trigger. And so that's a fluctuating mechanical trigger. Okay? Let's look at nutrition in her. Irish and German ancestry. Now, you guys all unmute yourselves. How many Irish and German ancestries are vegans?
Not many.
No, not many.
Not many.
Right? Okay, so if someone has got Irish and German ancestry and they suddenly go to become vegan, okay, that to me is like a lion saying, I'm going to become a vegan. Or a horse, a thoroughbred horse that's a vegan, saying, I'm going to try some meat. So to me, like genetic ancestry, because we've shown time and again, like our digestive ancestry, I'm of Asian ancestry, right? I have a ton more amylase than most people of German and Irish ancestries, because carbs is what fueled us in the tropics. So ancestral background is huge. Okay. Also, she was born with a C-section. Anybody know why that's important?
Didn't
Yeah, let me
populate
pick. Mike, why is that important?
Didn't populate the gut with bacteria.
See, he's done this course before. There are 3 guys who are on this call who reached out to me and said they wanted to be on here, who done the course before. Yeah. So if you do a C-section, you haven't gone. So one of the things that when you get delivered through the vaginal canal, when the child comes out, the nasal passages, the mouth cavities are covered in the mother's secretions. Okay, and then when they breathe, it goes in and populates them. Right? In C-section, you miss that. Now, unless a GYN is extremely aware, they will often take the mother's secretions and rub it on the face. But if they don't do that, you miss that out. Okay. And at the age of 12, she was competing everywhere, living on nuggets and fries, highly processed foods. Okay. Now watch this. When she was, after her first injury, she decided to supplement with branch chain amino acids, plant protein, curcumin, creatine, omegas. A, there's a lot of supplements. B, we don't know if it's any good. And C, we don't know if we need any of it because we have no blood work on her. So this was all done blindly, okay? And a lot of plant protein sources aren't great. There are some really good ones. Don't get me wrong. Vega's like phenomenal, right? Momentous has a really good plant-based one. But most of them, unless you know what to look for, aren't great. A lot of the branch chain amino acids, there's a difference between supplementing with essential amino acids versus just branch chain, okay? When you take branch chain excessively, the balance between branch and non-branch goes off, and you throw the whole system out of kiln, right? Omegas, again, like we don't know her doses, okay? Her sources of protein coming from plant protein, tofu, vegan meats, and occasional eggs. Now, you can get all your essential amino acids from plants, but you got to have a lot of variety. If you stick to a few, you won't get the full complex. That's the problem, okay? So can vegans have a full complement of essential amino acids just like meat eaters? Yes, but you got to have a variety of plants to get that entire spectrum, okay? And look, instead of she avoided milk but started consuming soy milk. Okay, let me pick somebody. Let me pick Jeff Lowe's. What do you think of soy milk? Jeff, if you can't answer, it's okay. What about Alex? Alex Herzlin. What do you think of soy milk? Oh, they all can't answer. Anybody can answer? What do you think of soy milk?
It's highly processed.
Highly
Yeah.
processed and lots of gums in it.
Yeah. What else?
Not nutritive. There's no nutrition to it.
Wait, somebody said something else.
Phytoestrogens. Estrogen.
Yes.
Yes,
That too.
phytoestrogens.
Yes.
Phytoestrogens. Big problem with phytoestrogens, right? So here's a girl, her menstrual cycles are off, her body change is changing, and she's taking phytoestrogen. The estrogen is inflammatory in excess. Okay? Right. And then look, she after all this time, she started eating meat again. Okay. Now let's look at, we can go, so what I do is when I take a history, I go through the history with all these triggers. I want to know if they have any of this. Okay. If I don't have a chance to talk to them and I get a report like that, I'll see if they have any of this. Now, this one here, the psychological one, look what she has. And I told you, this is the most potent, right? 24/7. Father being very difficult to her. She doesn't have a relationship with them. Okay. For the first time, when an athlete gets injured, that's very difficult for them to deal with. There's a lot of confidence. There's a lot of, oh my God, is this going to come back? Okay. Which then doesn't surprise me, led to a second injury. And she also had a really ugly breakup. And within 2 weeks of that breakup, where police were called, she was already competing. So to me, I don't think she completely resolved that issue. Okay. She also dropped out of the top 50 in the world, which means now athletes will, their prize money, their sponsorship, their ranking, all of that, they're very tied. Their ego, who they are is tied to their rankings. When you go outside the top 50, that's a big, big blow to the psyche. Okay. And then you talk about the money, all the rest of it. Okay. And the sleep was disturbed. What did I tell you? 24/7. Okay. Lives alone and doesn't really have much friends. The friends on tour are not what I would consider friends. So in this person here, we've noticed that she has a ton of inflammatory triggers, which not surprisingly has led a lot of this. Okay. Now what would happen is she'll come in with those symptoms. And if you don't go and address the triggers, what happened to the gut with all the ibuprofen? What happened to the gut with all the change of diet? Is she absorbing her nutrients? Because she was also training very hard and cutting back on calories, right? Did she have that pain in the rectus? Did that heal up with a scar? Was the diagnosis correct? Her allergies flat up out of nowhere. She never suffered with allergies 2 months ago. So there's a lot of these triggers. And so I go back, before working on the diagnosis, I go back to these inflammatory triggers. and figure out, okay, you know what? Which of these triggers can I address? Which of these triggers explain what's going on? Okay. And this here, don't panic, relax. This here is, you see this allostatic load when you have all the triggers going up here. This is what happens with the triggers. When you have a bunch of triggers, this is the universal response that you get. Any trigger does the same thing, okay? And this response is primarily driven by three things, okay? And the response is to support, is to do two things. One is to fuel the immune system, so provide energy to the immune system at the expense of everything else. And the second is to generate inflammatory proteins. Okay? So, in the course, we go through this in details, but I wanted to make sure you at least saw this. So, the endocrine immune neural system here, okay? It leads to imbalances in cortisol. It leads to imbalances in sugar control, okay? And it alters whether you are in a flight state or not. Okay, basically it makes you more catabolic, much more in a wired situation rather than in a rested situation. Okay, and this is what happens. These three. So forget all of this. Just look at this. If you have triggers, chances of you having adrenal dysfunction goes up. Okay, you will have excess sympathetic nervous system at the expense of reducing the parasympathetic, which is the vagus, okay, which affects your digestion significantly. Stomach acid, digestive enzyme, peristalsis, all of that is under the vagal tone, okay? And then also a significant change in sex hormones. That's just one leg. Now watch this. If you have an alteration in the macronutrients, okay, proteins are stored in three areas, okay? Muscle, gut lining, and enzymes. These are major stores of protein in the body. Now, if I need protein, because I told you the whole purpose of this is to provide energy to the immune system and to create acute phase protein. So how many of you had heard of CRP as an inflammatory marker?
Me.
Okay.
Protein.
Okay, so CRP.
Reactive.
Okay, C-reactive protein. P is protein. So when you have high levels of protein 24/7, where do you think that comes from? Your body is taking protein from the diet and saying, we need to create this, guys, to keep this person alive. Okay, so that comes from reprioritization of amino acids, but also it starts mobilizing proteins from your storage. Okay, so muscle, gut lining, enzymes. And also when you absorb amino acids, it starts breaking that out to create energy. Okay, and this leads to a whole variety of problems. Detoxification, digestion, absorption, all of that is from this enzymes being disturbed, okay? Less repair, sarcopenia, which means you're more likely to get injured. Tryptophan metabolism, methionine, tyrosine, which means you're going to have less serotonin, which is going to affect your sleep. Less glutathione for detoxification, okay? And this is what the triggers are doing. And then look, carbs and fats will affect the mitochondria function. And then if you have alterations in micronutrients, you're going to end up losing vitamins, electrolytes, minerals, and that leads to a whole bunch of things here. Look. Okay? So when you see trigger, it is not triggers, they're not just inert. Triggers cause a lot of issues. And if the triggers persist and you have multiple triggers, This is what's going on. When an athlete comes and says, I'm tired, or an athlete gets sick, or an injury doesn't get better, this is what's going on the inside. Okay? Now, all those imbalances, see all of this here, all these bottom ones here, they fell into this. Okay? And I was looking at all of this and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to remember this? Well, then one day I realized they fell into this. These are the primary metabolic imbalances: energy dysfunction, hormones, detox, immune, and neurotransmitters. And here's the thing. We can test. I didn't mean to do that. We can test and study every single one of these big categories. And in the masterclass, that's a lot of the emphasis. We do a lot of things, but I want to show you how to analyze all of these things so that when someone comes along with a report, you can actually understand what's going on. You can advise them accordingly, okay? And so this is the functional sports medicine matrix. This chronic inflammation is, in another word, allostatic load, okay? Chronic inflammation comes from a dysfunction in the energy pathways, the immune system, which is basically your gut, because 80%, 75%, 80% of your gut, your immune system lives in the gut. Your ability to remove toxins, your hormone. If you can't remove toxins, the brain and the endocrine organs are going to get whacked and they become inflammatory. And then your skeletal structure. This is asymmetry. This is muscle. This is nervous tension, tendons, ligaments, bones. Okay? Now, our goal is to drive the chronic inflammation down by cleaning up all these green things. And if you do that, now you have a body that can absorb training, can absorb recovery, which means you can train again, which means you can recover again, train again, recover again, and that's how you build resilience. And athletic performance sits on top of that. Okay? And this whole thing is governed by your genetics, your epigenetics, and your environment. Okay. Any questions at this point?
If we want, we also have the Q&A section as well. You guys can write into as well if you want.
Here, let me see. Athletes who play only one sport tend to have muscular imbalances which leads to injury. Yes, Peter, 100%. Estrogen use, yeah, not effective. Plant protein, yeah. Recovery from breakup, you cannot put timeline. Yep. Peter's got this. Peter, what do you do? Can Peter speak or not?
He's writing in the Q&A and he says social work.
Oh, okay, perfect. Social work? Man, how do you know all of this? Okay. All right, any other questions?
It's Kyler right here.
You're talking. They hear you.
Jeff, did you say something?
No.
We good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, let me ask you. Was that useful? Give me something that you found useful in those sections. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. What was an insight that you got just now that, like I said to you, you're not going to look at the athlete the same again? Put in the chat something that you saw.
For me, I was certified as a functional medicine health coach, and it was like, yes, this is the matrix applied into high performance.
Yes.
is
Correct.
very, very important. And also, I was looking at your case with the tennis player. So I imagine also low energy availability.
100%. Yep.
So yeah, it was very. I mean, I have the idea, but seeing applied in this way, it was very exciting. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good.
So-
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just comment and question. Commentary is just being Chinese medicine practitioner. The intake I use is very similar to, we go by system.
Yeah.
So but we don't have the lab aspect of it. So
Yeah.
we're looking at a lot of the same, like that intake, I would see it from a Chinese medicine perspective.
Yeah.
And then what made me interested and curious to sign up with this today was I get a lot of these cases, and I see this limitation where I get people where they're feeling better, but maybe and it's not a mask. Like, we do herbs and nutrition consulting, but what happens is that I don't feel 100. I feel like I could get them healthier faster if this aspect that you're doing, as far as like blood labs and knowing how to read that, because that's where I want to get. I feel like I have to see people a really long time
before you get there.
Before I get there.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people don't have the patience, some people don't have the money. They may think, and I try to be very honest and sincere that, you got your body into this space through a history.
Yeah.
And so we have to unpeel the layers, and you've got to be able to do the work in the diet and the whatnot. So my question is, is it like basic blood labs that you do? Is it? No.
So
So, okay, that's my question.
Let me do this. Ash, can you still see like my screen or no?
No, you have to share it again.
Okay, let me. Okay, so let me go here. Okay, so let me go here. Okay. Okay.
We can see it now.
Okay. All right. Okay, so these are all the modules. Okay. And then what I want to do is, let me go here real quick, and this will cover everything that you need to know. So I was going to show you something here. Okay. This is going to be my next webinar, but I'll do it now. Okay. So when you train somebody, okay, they go, so on the right here, this is Hans Sellier's work. He showed that similar, whenever you put a trigger on somebody, the response is exactly predictable. Okay. So when you stress a person with exercise, they start from here, and then there's a little bit of period where they actually get worse. Then they shoot up. Any athlete, any sedentary person, anyone, this is what happens. Then the progress plateaus, and then it dips. Now at that point, if it dips, you don't rest and eat and address that period, you're going to end up with overtraining. Okay. But if you act accordingly here, you will end up rebounding. And look, this point here is higher than here. So you'll end up better than when you started. Okay. And if you keep doing that over and over again, you reach your athletic potential. Okay. So the course, at the end of the course, this is what you'll know, right? See this? I want to know, A, why does this happen? And B, how do I predict this from happening? How do I know when this is going to happen? Like, is this going to happen here? Do I cut short training here? Do we overshoot it and then see it drop? I just want to pick it as it drops, okay? So it happens because of the allostatic response. It happens because of oxidative stress in the athlete training, okay? It happens because, like what's his name said, if you don't this is a true food log of an athlete. And when you do this course, you have to be able to interpret this. Okay? And then you also drop off performance because of the amount of free radicals and oxidative stress. Okay? So when it comes down to here, why does this happen? We want to make sure that they have enough energy. They're not running low in energy, which you get from looking at the food log, which we'll go through and learn how to do, right? And then we come here. This is what you learn to do. You learn to analyze the blood work on these principles. How much inflammation is going on? What's the omega fatty acid? Now, if you know that, you can then guide them on how to supplement. Similarly, what is the vitamin D level? Okay, so if you have an athlete who has some money to really invest in the game, you can run these tests, and I teach you what tests. What are the markers of inflammation? What omega fatty acid test do you need to run? And how do you interpret it? What is the vitamin D level? Okay, then we ask this question. This is all based on blood work and urine sample. Is the mitochondria working? Is there signs of oxidative stress? Do you have enough glutathione to mop up the oxidative stress? Okay, and depends. Like if you are in this stage here and I ran your bloods, I want that to be oxidative stress because I want you to fry the system until you cannot go anymore. But once it's here, we need to start cleaning it up. Otherwise, you'll end up in overtraining, which is going to be bad. Okay? What's the gut health like? And these are the questions. Is there microbiome diverse? I walk through exactly how to interpret the test. Okay? Is there microbiome diversity? Are there any abnormal pathogens? Do they have enzymes? Is the gut inflamed? Then we look at how do we, is the thyroid healthy? How do we look at the thyroid hormones? How do we look at the adrenal patterns? Do we look at the rhythms? How do we analyze sex hormones, in particular estrogen? Is the person breaking down estrogen, detoxifying estrogen? Is estrogen coming back up again, right? So, like for instance, for cortisol, these are the questions I ask. Is the evening cortisol elevated? What is the CAR? That's the cortisol awakening response, right? Then we ask, is the brain inflamed? Is the brain stressed? And then we look at wearable data. Okay, I look at, like, a lot of people will tell you, like, sleep is 6 to 9 hours. Like, where did that come from? We look at sleep cycles and show you how to analyze sleep cycles. And then we look at how do you look at HRV. And here's the thing, HRV fluctuates throughout the menstrual cycle. Resting heart rate fluctuates throughout the menstrual cycle. Body temperature fluctuates throughout the menstrual cycle. So in a woman, how would you interpret this? Right? And those are all the kind of stuff that we cover in the course. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I just have a random question.
Sure.
What do you think about the Fatty 15 supplement? Have you read about it or done any research on it?
No. I haven't. Fatty 15, no.
Yeah, take a look at it. It's a new essential fatty supplement. It's 15 carbon, and this researcher for the Navy discovered it in the dolphin off the coast of San Diego. She was studying the Navy dolphin. She was so she discovered that there were pods of dolphin that were aging slower, healing faster, less disease, and they were younger in terms of the blood work they would run, and they ran a ton of studies. So they said, okay, well, what's going on with this pod of dolphin? Because they're free to roam, etc., off the coast of San Diego. They don't have, they have no boundaries. So they started running blood tests on these dolphin, and they found this essential fatty acid, and they feed off of some kind of algae, plankton, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
So they started doing a bunch of research over the last couple decades, and now they've produced a vegan source of this fatty acid. It's called Fatty 15, and there's a book that the woman her name is Stephanie Van Watson, I believe.
Stephanie
And
Van Watson?
yeah, and she wrote a book about this essential fatty acid and has all the studies and papers.
I would
And
love to go look at it.
yeah, I think you would. I still geek out on it, and I've been giving it to my patients along with. So anyway, it shows that it has better anti-inflammatory healing capacity than an omega 3s.
I'm super interested in that because
Yes.
we had this kind of thing come up before where they looked at SPMs,
Yes.
and then SPMs didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was such a letdown. It was, Dr. Sheehan's work was so promising. I was a big proponent of it. Metagenics had found it. And I've come to a point where, like, I think isolating things to that level sometimes doesn't work. But I'm very, very, Fatty 15. I will definitely look into it.
Yeah. So her book is called The Longevity Nutrient.
The longevity what?
Nutrient.
Nutrient. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So then the other thing is they were like, okay, well, where does this essential fatty acid, where does it lie in like our diet on land? And they found that it is in high levels of certain cheeses in full fat milk. So full fat milk has this, but it's in lower quantity, but it does exist in full fat milk.
Huh.
And then in certain cheeses in Italy, that's like it's like pecorino romano or something, and there's high levels of it in these certain cheeses. But specifically in these dolphin, they were getting it from sources out in the Pacific Ocean. And so she wrote this book, The Longevity Nutrient. I mean, you can buy it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, whatever. And it has all of the benefits that they're seeing in Fatty 15. And they're seeing significant decrease in the aging process. So
I will thank you so much for sharing that.
Yes.
I will definitely look into that. Fatty 15. Okay. Any other questions on masterclass? Can I talk a little bit about the masterclass?
Yes.
Okay. So here's basically what you get. These are all the modules. Okay. And there are 13 modules. There's going to be another one coming out on vision because I think that's often not taught. And then we cover individual sections. Chronic inflammation, like if you see here, we look at toxicity, we look at the energy systems, we look at immunity, we look at adrenal, thyroid, sex hormones, we look at the brain, and then the one I just showed you, like how we put it all together, okay, is what we do. And there is a live call. So here's what I found was, how many of you get your information from podcasts, like really good podcasts? How many? Most of you, right?
Yeah.
And how many of you will often download a podcast, or you say you're going to listen to it, and then next thing you know, you're like 5 weeks in and you haven't listened to the podcast yet? Okay, so that happens to me with the best will in the world. I just cannot keep up, right? So then you try to get shorter version, this version, that version. I just couldn't keep up. So what I did was, when I created this course, I was like, no, I don't want to do anything like that. My superpowers is to take very complex stuff and make it very simple and find a better way to apply it to an athlete. That's my superpower. If there's one thing I do better than anything else, it's that, right? So when I created this course, that was my thing. My thing was, I don't want people to like have it and not look at it and stuff. No, I don't want that. So it's all those modules. You're going to get case studies which we will discuss, and that's homework that you need to submit. Okay. There's a live call. The last group, I think we started off with like wanting to do 6. Ash, how many did we do in the end? Like 9, 8?
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we did 9 in the
9.
end.
Okay, so effectively, this course runs over 4 months. And for virtually the entire 4 months, you're going to get a call with me. And the groups from before, they'll tell you, like, it's supposed to be an hour. It's never an hour because tons of questions, like just this section here, like someone told me, like you just shared with me about Fatty 15. There's always this kind of conversation that happen, right? And also, I have a ton of research articles that backs up everything that I say. Okay. Now, I limit the number of people that I take on the course because I read every answer that you submit. I mark the homeworks myself, and there are many times, like Ash doesn't even know this, I'll reach out to the person separately and go, hey, I see that you answered it this way. You're not understanding this particular thing. Like, we need to go through this over again. Because it's really important to me that this is not a course that you buy and then you don't finish before the next course comes along. I mean, how many people do that? Like, I do that all the time. I find one course, I started, something else comes up, and then I go to that, and then I think I want to come back, and now I'm 6 courses in and I never finish it. I never wanted to do it like that. Okay? So, again, like this course right now is at $4,000, and that's not going to be the price. Today, what we decided, like with Ash, was like, okay, anyone who's on this call today, I'll do it for $3,000. Okay? So, like I said, it's limited to a certain number of people. I don't want a ton of people. The money is good, but like that's not the point of it. Like, I want to make sure, like there are people in this call right now, the 3 people. I didn't ask them to come. They all messaged me separately and saying, hey, can you send me the link? They were in the initial cohort. Actually, like Chad.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the course, if you don't mind? Can I put you on the spot?
Of course. Yeah, for me, it was one of those eye-opening experiences where you kind of see all these things, but you just don't understand them as a whole and how they impact the person, and the ability to the deep dive into what they mean. How do you look at these things with labs, with overall effect, and then the one-on-one time on the live calls, you just really get deep into understanding it and really being able to apply it like realistically into your practice or your whatever thing you do. But even now, me and Mitch, and then we'll hop on calls and discuss these things. So it's one of those things where I see things now in a completely different manner, and things make complete sense when I get patients and stuff that come to me, as opposed to just looking at the physical injury. You're breaking everything else down, and it makes a lot more sense in that manner. So it was definitely worth the investment, and instead you still utilize it to this day.
Yeah, and thanks, Mitch. Sorry, thanks, Chad. And the other thing is, like, I allow you to download this material, so it's there forever. Like, you keep it. And then what happens is, right now, this group, you will be cohort 5, which means you have access to the last 4 groups' live calls. That itself is like a textbook. Ash and I recently transcribed the whole thing, and it was like, I can't even tell. It was so big, even like we couldn't even look at it. It's so much. Okay.
It was like 500 pages of
500 pages. Yeah, just the live calls itself. So the key thing is here, right? I make a point of doing this. Okay. What is the purpose of the course? Is to look at the athlete as a whole. Okay. And you do that by getting all the information, the history, the blood work, the food log, the sleep cycle, the wearable data, and then you analyze the information. And then you let it marinate. You let it sit with you for a while for insights to come out. If you don't, so most people miss this incubation period. this incubation period is so important when you're working with anybody. Time is what we don't give them. So in order to answer the question, why this athlete, why this illness, why this injury, why now, you need to let it incubate for insights to come out. And then you don't have a knee-jerk reaction and just go, oh, low testosterone, give testosterone. Low testosterone, give this. High estrogen, do this. You don't do that. You think about it holistically, and then you can implement certain things. And it's always the same: lifestyle, nutrition, sleep, exercise, modification, recovery, and then you put it all together, right? And like I said, if you don't have the time, you do not want to do the case histories, then honestly, like, don't join this course, because you're going to be struggling. I want to make sure you have time to do the work. It doesn't take a lot. It takes an hour a week. Now, if you're like Mitch and Chad, they would jump on the live calls and then they will go and have calls on their own, and they were doing crazy stuff. And that's why they are where they are, right? But the opportunity is there. A lot of the cohorts, actually, like, they're all friends for a long time. And these case histories, they are true cases. There's two cases. One is a female athlete, which I gave you part of, right? And then the other one is a male golfer. And we go through that in detail, step by step by step. And then we analyze their blood work step by step in a very methodical way, okay? And again, these are all the things. If you finish this masterclass, you will be able to answer all these questions. Things like looking at adrenal function, assessing whether someone has, oxidative stress capacity to mop that up or not. Okay, what would someone's tendency be towards, getting insulin resistant? Are they more likely or less likely, right? What to do with vitamin D? How to assess the gut health? How to customize your nutrition and your supplementation plans? But a lot of this is based on looking at stool samples, blood work, and urine, okay, and sometimes saliva. But don't forget, it sits on top of a good history and a food log and wearable data. Okay, so any questions at this point? Ash, do you want to did you put the thing in?
I'll put in the chat, guys, the code to get the $1,000 off in the chat for you guys.
Okay, are you going to send it out to them as well or no?
Yeah, so I will also send out an email to you guys as well with another discount as well. But the ones that you'll get in this chat is the $1,000 off of the course.
Okay.
When this cohort starts, and what day do we will meet?
Oh, the course will start in August.
August 5th. Yep.
Yeah. And it'll go for 4 months effectively. Okay. And what I want to do is every 2 weeks there'll be a live call. Now sometimes, and this is why I cannot give you an absolute, because like the last group, I realized they were struggling with certain things. So what I did was I did back-to-back calls for 3 weeks, so that I could help them understand certain things and catch up. Because just it's not enough otherwise. I used to do it weekly, and then it was too much, so I cut it down to like twice a week. But then I realized like some groups just need more help than others, and so we tweak it as we go along. And each module, in order to go open the next module, you need to pass the test. So there's homework, there's tests. Like, I wanted to make sure when you finish this, you don't have to mention my name. I don't care if you do. I care that you know what you're doing. I care that if an athlete comes to you, you're going to leave them better than you found them. And if we do that, then we can practice medicine in a completely different way than what we're doing right now. Any other questions?
Do you have any continuing ed
certification?
Can it go towards continuing ed with any profession?
No, you can apply for it because you have all the. I don't submit it because I tried to do it and it was like almost bribing them to do it, and I didn't want to do it. But a lot of people can submit the work because of the references. So you need to show that there's a test. You need to show that there's references, and then you can get certificate of education CUs from that. Any other questions?
And if you have questions that pop up outside of this as well, you can respond to the emails that you've been getting as well, and we'll answer all your questions there. So don't hesitate to reach out as well.
Ash, where do they sign up?
They can sign up. I will send you the link right now as well.
See, this is what we don't do well.
I'm
more interested.
We're not selling. We're not big sellers.
I'm more interested in teaching people than I am like doing all this other stuff. Everyone else would have like put all your information, sign up now, blah blah blah. I'm not pushy like that. I think if it works for you, I've come to realize like I'm not for everybody, but the people I'm for, like, it's great.
So I also put the code for the discount and then the direct link to the course for you guys if you're interested in the chat.
Yeah, just
so
go
check it out. And if not, I'll also put the website there as well, just so you guys can take a look as well.
Anything else, guys and girls?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much athlete I would be treating, but it seems like a good fundamental course for the general public.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
Hey,
that's
all right. Don't forget the corporate athlete.
Yeah. So funnily enough, so Mike is an accountant. He's a CPA, and he joined this course. And I remember he reached out to me and he says, "I'm not an athlete, but I want to understand how the body works." And he joined. And at the time, Mike was, how many supplements were you on, Mike, on yourself?
Remember that photograph? I don't know. It was probably 30 different things I was taking, including exogenous testosterone.
Oh my God, he was taking like 30 supplements, and at the end of the course, you were down to what? Like, what did you do? 3? Something like that. So to answer your question, Yuvan, I apply it to athletes, right? And my philosophy is anyone who's trying to get better, anyone who has the challenges of sleep, eating on the road, psychological stress about competing, stress about deadlines, leaving the family behind, all of those things, those challenges, if your clientele has those challenges, then this course is for you, because the blood work, the science that goes towards this does not change. It's completely applicable. And I use a lot of I trained in acupuncture in Hamilton University, and as part of that, we got a very basic even understanding of Chinese medicine, and there's some elements of that I put in here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, or I would say understanding the hormone pathways, both in men and women, and how they work, and how they're built in your body. And for me, for example, I was able to take myself off of testosterone replacement therapy because I fixed the pathway to create my sex hormones.
The one that caused you to have low T in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. See, I didn't even ask him to come on. I literally saw him today. So crazy. Who else? Any other questions? No, we good?
All right. Amazing.
Okay, listen, what time is it? 8:23. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you guys. And Ash, are we doing another webinar or no?
Yeah, we have another one coming up on July 16th as well. If anyone wants to
Okay.
hop on that, I'll send you guys another link.
You
You'll
know,
hear from me.
yeah, in July 16th, I'm going to cover in detail like all the more, not in detail, but like all the blood work stuff. Yeah, that's what I'll cover that.
So it just might be another good addition to get after snowballing off of this one.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, you
Okay.
guys will hear from me as well. So it's lovely to meet you guys, and I'll be reaching out.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll call it a night. Okay, we good?
Perfect.
Okay, unmute yourself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Ashley. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.